Hey everyone, John Henry here, slingshotfutures.com, and welcome to the Market Outlook for Futures and Forex, where we take a look at our big six markets. The main goal of the outlook is to create a plan for tomorrow so we can be as prepared as possible for tomorrow's price action as well as tonight's price action. Now, first of all, let's jump into the futures side of things. We've got gold with an okay correction, right? We started an overall bearish move down. They had a small weekend gap lower right there, barely anything, filled it, tried coming back up early, 9, 10 o'clock at night, and then pushed all the way back down to a new low. They found a huge amount of inventory down here for buyers to swarm into and slam the market back up for a full reversal in the other direction. Now, a lot of times when you get these full reversals like that, you're generally find that they're going to be a one-to-one type move. So from the low to the high, from the low to the high, we haven't hit that yet, right? That's up here at around 71.1. Does that mean that the up move is, is done and it's going to turn around, or does it mean that we're going to continue? Right now, it appears as though the buyers got a little bit overzealous, right? We had a strong bull channel working its way higher, so strong, in fact, that they started to not come back down to the lows and got a little bit upward angle, right? We broke above the highs, we did it again, and then found a lot of failure up here. So generally speaking, when that occurs, the buyers are still looking to come in, but nobody wants to buy this far up anymore. So what I'm looking for is for this small bear move down that went into a small little channel, see them break higher at around that 1165 area, get a push down into support between 61.8 and 60.7, and then finish the move off towards the highs. That's really what I'm looking for right now on gold, mainly just because of how overdone it was at the highs. They got a little bit too aggressive, a little too fast. Now they have to correct themselves a little bit back down into an area of support. So right now what I'm looking for, again, big breakdown, went into a little bit of a channel, break higher for a fake out, getting buyers stuck in early before getting that move down, then a trap to the downside, and then the move towards the upside. So that's what I'm looking for on gold. So switching gears over, let's drop gold down here. Now on crude oil is a little bit of a different story. We had an absolutely gargantuan gap higher. We opened up over the weekend all the way back around 52.59 or so. And that's after closing on last week Friday at 51.48. So to say a small gap, I think would be an understatement. We have a huge weekend gap, and we can see that with this kind of weekend gap, the buyers are going to hesitate. They got the move early in the morning, but then when it came time to continue, they couldn't even go back up to a new high before falling short. So with that lower high, what that's telling us is basically before the buyers can go back up, they need to fill this gap. So 51.48 is the major objective that I'm looking for sellers to drive down into. We can see that on this move lower, the highs are getting more and more aggressive. They're fanning out, kind of looks like a fan, right? So this downside potential is giving us a channel right now, but usually when something like this occurs, it'll grind the lower edge and then break out to the downside, showing that the sellers just got a little overzealous, but they finished off an objective. They raced down into that objective, possibly a head fake below it, but in the long run, looking for this to correct all the way back up, potentially back up to that 54.60 area for a new high. So right now, 51.48 is the big line in the sand, and the sellers are probably going to keep trying to keep that move going down until they can hit that area. So 51.48 is the big level that I am looking for. Now, right now, again, we are finding a little bit of support off of this bottom edge here, and that makes me a little bit nervous for selling right now. What I would rather see is short-term selling at a better price, whether it's a trap high or whether it's a retest of the top of the channel. Whatever it happens to be, going to be tough to sell this far down, so we need a little bit of a correction. Right now, the earliest place that sellers will likely be found is right around 52.66 in that area. They may also try to come back up to that prior swing low at 52.80. So that band, that zone inside there is the area that could be of interest for sellers to try to drive lower. But again, either way, don't want to sell this far down. We need to sell a better price before we get that finishing move down to 51.48. Looking at the Dow mostly range bound. It looked like they were going to start off like crude oil, where they had that big start to the day, and then it just completely fell apart on itself all the way back down to a new low, right? They broke down, the buyers tried defending that low of that initial burst, and they tried to defend it, and they tried to defend it, and so far, they're still hanging on. They almost let loose right there, but the buyers are still hanging on to that bottom edge. So as long as they're hanging on to that lower side, I'm still looking to be a buyer, especially if you look at a larger time frame. The larger time frames are only bullish. You only need to be buying on bigger time frames right now. So what I would really like to see is for the sellers to try to get the move going, get a breakout underneath that 19,686 area, and then look for a trap down here to get the move back up to finish off that drive. Now, we may find a little bit of resistance at 19,766, but the major objective is up to 19,810 or so for a new high. So looking to buy, but I'd rather not buy in the middle of this wedge. Either we're looking to buy a trap low or a breakout pullback. Either way, looking to be a buyer. It just depends on what the market wants to give us. And now let's jump on over to the Forex markets. Now the euro has a very beautiful move higher. We've got just an absolutely gorgeous channel working its way up. Can't really ask for a much nicer looking one, and a quick little twin reversal off the top. They poked their head above it and immediately dumped right back down. That's a big clue that the buyers do not want it up at these highs right now. So naturally, we have to wait for it to pull back. What I would really like to see, especially given how strong of a move up this was, is for the market just to pull back a little bit, right? It doesn't have to pull back a ton, but around this area, you know, that 10,620 or so, well, between 62.53 to 62.29, that would be a really nice area to look to become a buyer. But because we have overblown through the highs, there's a good chance that we come down to the lows and do the same thing. So it's going to be tough buying until we get a correction of the move that happened at the highs. So what you can do is you can measure the high side, and when we get to the bottom, measure that low side, and that's about the distance that you're going to expect to see as a breakout. Now, in the overnight session, we may just go range bound for a little while until we tap the bottom, but either way, we're looking for the lows of the channel more than anything else with a small breakout before looking to jump back in to the long side now on the euro. Going over to the dollar yen on the opposite side of the spectrum, rather. Nice bearish move down, really good looking bear channel. Got a little bit more aggressive here in that it looked like it was trying to form a wedge, right? Just a super, super aggressive move down here going into the afternoon. And after that, they just kind of fell apart. We're gone into a range now, and that comes off the backs of a little bit of overzealousness. We've seen this several times now today as a whole, but as well as on the dollar yen. This move was finished off on a big bear spike. This move was finished off on a big bear spike. This move was finished off on a big bear spike. So we're probably going to see the same thing here, right? The obvious that we are bearish. The sellers still are selling into these moves, but now we're expecting a slight little range. Sellers don't want to sell way down here anymore. They want to sell higher. So I'm looking for a trap above 115.202 to become a seller. Anywhere really between 115.148 to 202 is nice, but preferably a trap above that, because that should put us into EMA resistance and then a drive back down to the lows for another possible breakout to the downside with these big bursty candles. And then finally, wrapping up on the pound dollar. The pound dollar, very nice bullishness so far today with a twin reversal top. They tried grinding higher after that big run up. They got a spike, and then they moved into a channel. And when they tried to retest that high, it completely fell apart, right? Big twin reversal. We have a move up into the highs, completely shut down back to the other end. Generally speaking, that means that, once again, the common story, buyers don't want to buy this high anymore. They're not interested in buying high and looking for it to go higher because the market isn't showing that aggression anymore. So we're looking for a pullback. I want to see this pullback not only to support, which is what we're getting right now. This is a short-term buying opportunity in this area, you know, around 2670. But what I would really like to see is one more drive down to the lows, trap inside 266.22 to 26,539. And really, if we can get the move going, 26,484 to 26,400. And then the big daddy, if the sellers really want to step up to the plate, you're looking at 26,203 for the final trap area. Any of these locations are likely going to produce a bounce, this one being the highest probability for a move back up towards the highs. So really just looking to buy a pullback right now before we finish off that run back up to the highs and retest the high. Probably not going to break through it by much, but looking for a retest of the highs at the very least. So that's going to do it for this one. Really interesting day ahead of us, especially the fact that there really isn't any big news for tomorrow. There is big news tomorrow, but not for the US session. We've got the GBP news coming out at 4:30. We've got 5 o'clock news for Europe. And then we have some Japanese news tomorrow afternoon, but nothing for the US. So play it a little bit cautious tomorrow because it may get a little bit choppy, nasty, kind of gross. But overall, make a plan. I think we always say, right? Make the plan, trade the plan, follow the rules, and you'll be just fine. So that's going to do it for this one. If you have any questions about it, as always, you can send me an email, jbrink@slingshotfutures.com. Hopefully for you folks that are getting some snow, you're not buried out there. I know we are. We've gotten way more snow than we know what to do with. So I'm going to go dig myself out of this pit of snow that Mother Nature has blessed us with. But enjoy the rest of the day, and we will see everyone tomorrow.